The dollar's pumping and gold stocks are dumping. All that and more on Sunday Night Charts. We take a look at the charts to help you with the trading week ahead. I'm your host, Steven Van Metre, and keep in mind the moving average colors on your screen. The 21 days red, 50 days green, 100 days blue, 200 days is tan. Price versus momentum. Price is a general direction. Prices are headed. Momentum is a rate of change. A bullish indicator for both is positive and a bearish indicator for both is negative. Momentum often, but not always, leads price. Technical analysis attempts to determine where buyers and sellers are at. Resistance is a level buyers can't break, and support is the level sellers can't break, or resistance is where sellers are at, and support is where buyers are at. Technical analysis does not predict prices. It can be used to determine the risk of a trade, help with time of trade, and provide direction to the path of least resistance. Charting offers possibilities, not probabilities, and not certainties. Let's start out with the S&P 500, virtually unchanged from last week, with the SPY price bullish, momentum bearish. Still, the rate of change, the growth, the acceleration is slowing, and now flipped below its 9-day moving average, which is nearly meaningless, but a potential very early signal. But at the moment, you can see doesn't add much value above the 21-day, above the 50-day, 100-day, accelerating off of the low. Dip buyers rewarded every time, and when you're rewarded, you keep doing it, and they're driving right back up, looking at another shot at the all-time highs going into next week. Tons of volume support below, giving the buyers a lot of safety. Makes them feel good. They're sitting down here at 416 on SPY. They're good to go. How about why we're talking about it? Let's see what Momentum Timer Pro has been up to. We haven't looked at that. Now, if you've not heard of Momentum Timer Pro, it's linked in the description below. It's a currently free report because it's in open beta, but let's show you because some people are struggling with this. Now, keep in mind it's a complex report, but let's see SPY. It's currently on a rolling 3-month right here. These two boxes right here, P size, P signal rolling 3-month. These are daily, so unless you're a very short-term trader, rolling 3-month period, max position sizing. So what would we say based on the charts? Is that right? Absolutely correct positioning. It's got it. Let's go on to the NASDAQ 100. QQQ price bullish, momentum bearish, still above all the key moving averages, unchanged over last week. And let's see what the charts say about QQQ. And it should see a similar story, seeing right near all-time highs. What does this start to tell us is that there's a supply zone building up here. So when it can't meaningfully break out to new all-time highs and it starts getting stuck in a range, what it tells you is there's a new supply zone. In fact, we could start to draw some lines and give you some help doing that and see if we're right, because we do this fairly live. So we'll just draw some lines and see. We'll just say the supply zone is, probably right in there where that volume is. So we'll see if that holds. Out of curiosity, let's see where Momentum Timer Pro is at on a rolling 3-month period, max position size. So that looks to be correct. If you're looking at the charts, that's exactly what you'd want to see in terms of a recommendation. Let's go on to Russell 2000. Now remember, small caps lead the large caps. So hopefully you're learning and keeping an eye on, even if you don't allocate to it, if you don't like small caps, you need to keep an eye on them. And now price flipping bearish across the board. Momentum still bearish, unchanged. Now below the 21-day moving average, and the rest of them, 1-month momentum turning positive, going up to positive and rising. 3-month momentum dropping down to negative and falling. The 1 month isn't a big of a deal. It's the 3 to 6 months where these start turning red that you've got some worries. Let's go look at IWM and see what's going on here. And for it, we got to go out to the 1-year chart because you see this topping pattern. And it's a huge topping pattern. We know speculators are short. If you watch the weekly show, you know that speculators are heavy short. Small caps, you see the volume profile line suggesting that anytime it gets up in here, there are your sellers. A break on IWM below this 207 line would signal a massive risk off move. Now, of course, since we're checking, let's see how MTP would say about IWM. It's saying it's a hold position. Now, on a rolling 3-month period, does that make sense? So what it would have done is you'd be holding a minimum position size and holding that small position, potentially waiting to see what happens. Again, this is not based on, this is completely formula based. For those of you who've looked into my portfolio shield strategy, you'll know it has nothing to do with that. Absolutely nothing related to that at all. All right, let's go on into the next one, we have the transportation sector. Price bearish, momentum bearish, below all the key moving averages. The momentum, the longer screens haven't changed. 1 month, 3 month, both negative and rising. Let's see where we're at on the charts for IWT, and that is up here. And we saw last week it was fighting that volume profile line, and it did break up, tagged the 50-day moving average, and indeed is now looking to roll over. Remember, cross to the 50-day on the way down, tag of the bottom side means it's confirming a lower trend. It's now popped below the 21-day moving average. Trend there is bearish. And while we're checking, let's see how MTP is doing on IYT. No position size, so on a rolling 3-month period, it has caught that move, rolling over, headed down, and saying, if you're looking at, again, these are daily signals, but if you're a little bit longer term investor or trader, the rolling 3 months saying no position size. So it's nailed that pretty well. It's not perfect, but if you give it time, you'll find out it's really good. And like I said, it's free until I get around to making it paid. So that's good. Energy sector, price bearish, momentum flipping bullish on the 21-day moving average, swapping places with the 50 days flipping bearish. So overall bearish picture on price, mostly picture bearish on momentum. Below all the key moving averages, that is a big red flag. 3-month momentum dropping to negative and falling. Again, until the 6-month flips, it's not the end of the world. Let's take a look at XLE. And what do we see? It is getting close to its 6-month trend of changing that. And let's see, it looks like XLE's got a destination now with 44. It becomes a very clear topping pattern. You could make an argument that you have a left shoulder, a head, a right shoulder, and the neckline right at that volume profile line. Or toward the bottom of it, which would suggest there is a topping pattern here, telling you that XLE's next supply zone is indeed around this $43 price level, with the high side at 44, where previous buyers have been at. The question is, are they there? We should expect to see maybe on next week's report that 6-month momentum trend starts to break down here. So let's see how MTP is doing on XLE. And where is it? There it is. No position. So remember, it had a position, and then now, as of at least this report, if you've been signed up, you can go back and look at a couple of reports to see. So it did a good job of that. And you want to wonder why money managers are signing up for MTP in droves, and financial advisors. They're using it. They get it, but it takes time. It's not an easy report. Till it goes paid, it's not going to get any easier. But when it does, whatever that day is, I'll be able to provide some more insight. Financials, bullish on price, momentum unchanged, now below the 9-day moving average. That doesn't signify much of a change. Let's see what's going on in the financials. And what do we see? A potential topping pattern. It got up, tried to break out to new all-time highs, was rejected, is now coming down. It looks like it's got a date potentially with the supply zone, or not the supply zone, with this volume profile line. And that we would likely see perhaps next week. And what does MTP have to say on XLF? It's down to a hold position. So it's saying if you're in this and you are following this, you'd have a minimum position size and a hold based on a rolling 3-month period, and which means it's kind of already capturing this top here, saying, hey, you can hang on to this, but it's starting to think that the trend is rolling over. So pretty reasonable job there so far on that too. Let's go on to XLI. Shouldn't see much of a difference here between this and the major equity indices. Price unchanged, momentum unchanged, now below all the key moving averages. There's a red flag that would start to trigger these longer term momentum signals. Let's see what's going on with XLI. And look at that topping pattern there, very clearly back underneath that volume profile line, suggesting everybody above are net sellers of it. What does Momentum Timer Pro think of XLI? It's on a minimum position size, sitting at hold, potentially to go lower pretty soon. So there you go, right on cue if you are following MTP. Okay, let's go on to the utility sector. Remember, Michael Gadd and I talked about this. Mainly he talked about how utilities are a late cycle warning that they rally and go down. No change on that, but let's go to the charts and see what the utility sector is. Is it now? How high is it? Oh, it is pushing. Is that record high? Let's go out. It is pushing record high, looking to make potential double top here. And what does MTP think about the utility sector? Let's see. It's got a hold position. Ooh, interesting. So it's saying take a minimum position size on that. It doesn't like that big rally. So see, I told you, it's not perfect. It didn't catch this entire move on the way up because it didn't like it. It's on a rolling 3-month period. What's a rolling 3-month period? Well, you got to go back to 90 days, and it's not a clear-cut breakout yet. So it's working its way there, but it's not there yet. So it's not that fast of a formula. Now, if you're looking for a faster view of XLU, you would look to this 27-day count and say at some point that you've got to like what's going on there. All right, let's go on to what is the next chart in our list. We've got gold miners, on the edge of an abyss. We have gold miners looking head down, price momentum bearish, unchanged across the board, below all the key moving averages. Now the 9-month momentum is negative and falling, and it's just an ugly chart for the miners. Let's start with GDXJ. I know it's not normally on our list, but let's zoom out. 5-year chart, that's almost too far. 2-year chart, and what do we see? Volume profile at 2-year is down at 37.86. It's moving between these supply zones. So I put these lines where these volume chunks are at, and I would expect the trend of this to go down into the high 30, maybe into the $38 range into early next week, perhaps finding support in the high $37 range. And that is an ugly chart. Breaks down now below 36. And the floor is off. Clear topping pattern. Now, what about GDXJ? Similar story there. It's about to get into no man's land, and no man's land means price goes down, and you can see breaking this topping pattern. I've said this was a topping pattern for a long time, and unless buyers jump in, and this is last chance for buyers here, buyers fail to come in here, the next destination for price is going to be around $29.50 with a destination into this kind of mid $28 range. And what does that tell us? We know momentum. We've looked at it. Momentum Time Pro has been in a no position size for a while because the trend's been negative. You can see even the rolling 10-day signal has been negative for 10, 11 days. And it's had no position size because in this chart, you wouldn't want to hold a position in this. This is a topping pattern, and it got it exactly right. Okay, let's go on to what we have next is emerging markets. Remember, if you're bullish on the miners, you're bullish on EEM. If you're bearish on the miners, you'd be bearish on EEM. Price momentum remained negative below all the key moving averages. 1 and 3 month momentum now flipped negative and falling. 6 month momentum down to negative and rising. And let's see what's going on with EEM. And what do we have here? Clear topping pattern. Let's zoom out to the 1-year chart. Very clear topping pattern. Ran into resistance multiple times below the key moving averages. Crossed. Now it's tracking the 21-day moving average down. And if it's following the mining stocks, which it should, it's got a destination down here in the $45 range. And of course, you're probably wondering, what did MTP do? And remember, you can sign up for this in the link in the description below. It does have a pop-up to put your email address in, so you've got to turn that off. Emerging markets, no position size over a rolling 3 month. No surprise there. Exactly what we would expect it to say. All right, let's go on to high yield bonds. Price, unchanged, bearish across the shorter term moving averages. Bullish on the 100-day momentum, unchanged. Now flipping below its 100-day moving average. Other than that, high yield bonds have been amazingly resilient. If you look at anything that's in this market, high yield bonds are super resilient. And again, flirting with their volume profile line. Buyers have been there without any problem. Dip below, buyers have been there. I mean, this chart is just too hard to read yet. It clearly looks like a topping pattern, but it hasn't been. Let's see where MTP's got it flagged on the high yield space on a hold position. So it's saying take a minimum position size on that one. Is what it's recommending. It's saying hold that. It's not convicted, and it shouldn't be. Shouldn't be convicted at all if you're in high yield bonds. In fact, you should look at the yield you're getting for the risk. How about the long-term Treasury bonds, TLT, price bullish, momentum bullish, unchanged, above the 21-day moving average. 1 month momentum down to negative and rising. 9 and 12-month momentum up to negative and rising as the trend here is close to breaking out to even higher highs on TLT. And you can see gorgeous bottom coming down, making a bottom. Everyone said yields are going higher. Prices went up as yields went down. It came down, bounced off of its 100-day moving average, back above its 21-day, above all the other ones. This is looking for now a move to get over 152, and then a date of 156 is its next level. Let's move back to the 6-month chart. You can see there's just dead air because most of the moves were in the overnight. And how does MTP think about that? Well, those of you that know have been on the list know it's been sitting on a maximum position size for a while. Some of you were worried when it dipped down here. But remember, it's a rolling 3-month, and it was spot on. And so when it started buying in, and it got it. So good job on MTP for getting that one right. Let's go on to gold futures. No change on price, no change on momentum, no change on the moving averages. 1-month momentum is negative and rising. 12-month momentum is now negative and rising. Those are pluses. Let's see what the story is on gold futures, and it's not pretty. We can see it is a very clear topping pattern. When we went to the 2-year chart, see, remember the miners lead the metal, came down here to 1678, tagged that. Buyers came in with a vengeance, drove prices right back up into the 1800 range where there is indeed resistance. And now we're finding out that that volume profile line in the 6-month chart is indeed where sellers are at, suggesting that with gold topping and rolling over here, that its next path is down to 1750. And of course, we don't have gold futures, but we have GLD. Somewhere on here, where's GLD saying hold? So if you're in it, it's got a minimum position size, but I wouldn't be too convicted that that's going to last. How about silver? Remember, we've been watching this silver story break down. We've caught it on the chart show. Price bearish, momentum bearish, below the moving averages, 1 and 6-month momentum to negative and rising. The rest of this chart is not pretty, and neither is the chart of silver. And we have to, again, zoom out on silver. Gorgeous topping pattern. It's breaking down. This is cool because it broke down, found buyers way down here a little bit. There were buyers at this $22 price range. They drove it up right to the bottom of the supply zone. I want you to see these supply zones, and it got rejected. People that were buying up in here are now turning into sellers. Silver, it's got a destination of about $18. Based on the charts, what is MTP? Let's probably got no position. Let's see if that's correct. Yep, it correctly figured that out. 25 days of daily sell signals. But if you're following MTP, you already knew that. Next, let's see. What do we have? Last but not least is the dollar is headed higher. Price bullish. Momentum bullish above all the moving averages. 9-month momentum is now positive and rising. The only one yet to trigger is a 12-month. I don't know how soon that's going to trigger that one. Let's take a look. Let's zoom out to the 1-year chart. It's got to break over this $94 range, so it's close to triggering a positive on that 1-year. People are so bearish about the dollar, but you've got momentum behind it. The charts see here, look, double bottom. We talked about this in the Friday show. Break above 94, and you've got a move up in the 97. Financial conditions tightening. Tells you there's a dollar shortage. You're seeing this as a bottom. A lot of people say no, and then Momentum Timer Pro says probably yes. Let's see, where's currencies? And there it is, UUP. Has got a hold. Oh, so it's coming. It's still on a minimum position size. It's interesting. Well, let's go back and look and see on a 3-month period. Yeah, it's still working its way. So we should probably expect to see as we get to break out, which is cool because Momentum Timer Pro is not super aggressive. That on that rolling 3-month period, as it breaks over 94, it'll kick that minimum position size up. Because what do we see here? We see more buy signals than sell, and on a rolling 3-month period is probably stacking those up. So I expect to see that head higher in the near future. And with that, thanks for watching. We'll see you on Monday for the show that is not called the macro show, but it's about macroeconomic trends. I'm your host, Steven Van Metre. Bye now. The content of this video is provided as educational, informational, not intended to provide investment or other advice. The show is not to be construed as a recommendation or solicitation by or selling security, financial instrument, or to participate in any particular trade strategy. This video was prepared by Steven Van Metre. A person past opinions expressed in this video that do not reflect the view of Atlas Financial Advising or Steven Van Metre Financial.